r/ProRevenge, family doxed me online so I called police on their crimes. I was hiding in my dorm bathroom at 3 a.m., frantically deleting my social media accounts while my phone buzzed with death threats, when I realized my own family had just declared war on me. The doxing post had everything. My full name, my dorm address, my class schedule, photos of me from family gatherings I thought were private memories. But it wasn't just the invasion of privacy that made my hands shake as I screenshotted the evidence, it was the caption my uncle had written above it all. This is what happens when the devil gets into your children. Sarah Mitchell, 22, currently corrupting students at State University. Let's show this confused little girl what real consequences look like. She chose her path. The comments underneath were worse. Strangers from 3 states over were sharing it, adding their own creative suggestions for what should happen to me. Someone had already found my work-study job at the campus library and called to demand I be fired. Another had called my dorm's front desk asking for my room number, claiming to be my concerned grandfather. I'd been out as bisexual for 2 years. 2 years. My family had already disowned me, already made it clear I wasn't welcome at holidays or family gatherings. I thought we were done hurting each other. I thought the worst was behind us. Apparently, seeing me happy in a photo my girlfriend posted, us at Pride last month, rainbow flags painted on our cheeks, genuine smiles for the first time in months, was the final straw. According to the timestamps, my uncle had started his harassment campaign within hours of that photo going live. My phone rang. Campus security. Sarah. We need you to come down to the lobby. There's been an incident. The incident was a middle-aged man who'd driven 4 hours from my hometown, demanding to speak with me about setting me straight. Security had turned him away, but not before he'd made enough of a scene that they needed to file a report. That's when reality hit me. This wasn't going to stop with angry comments. My family had painted a target on my back for every homophobic stranger with too much time and too much rage. I spent the rest of that night in the security office, working with campus police to document everything. By morning, we'd counted 47 direct threats, 12 people who'd attempted to contact me through official university channels, and 1 man who'd actually shown up in person. The dean of students was kind but firm. For my safety, I needed to go stay somewhere else until this died down. Maybe take a semester off. Let things cool down. I stared at her across that polished desk, thinking about my 3.8 GPA, my internship applications, my carefully planned graduation timeline. Everything I'd built since leaving home, everything I'd accomplished despite my family cutting me off, it was all crashing down because they couldn't leave me alone. But here's the thing about being disowned, it clarifies your priorities real fast. When people make it crystal clear they don't consider you family anymore, you stop protecting them like family. And I've been protecting them for a long time. See, there were things I knew about my uncle's construction business. Things about insurance claims that didn't match reality. Things about tax returns that would make the IRS very interested. Things I'd kept quiet about for years because, despite everything, they were still my blood. Sitting in that dean's office, watching my college career circle the drain because of their hatred, I made a decision that would change everything. If they wanted to destroy my life, maybe it was time I returned the favor. I walked out of that dean's office with my laptop bag and a sick feeling in my stomach that had nothing to do with fear. It was anticipation. The kind you get right before you do something you can't take back. My girlfriend Maya picked me up an hour later, her beat-up Honda loaded with my hastily packed essentials. She offered her apartment without hesitation, but I could see the worry in her eyes as I threw my suitcase in the back seat. You're too quiet, she said as we pulled away from campus. Usually when you're angry, you rant. This silent thing is freaking me out. I was quiet because my brain was cataloging. Every family gathering where I'd overheard whispered conversations. Every time my Uncle Rick had bragged about beating the system. Every insurance claim that had made me uncomfortable, every casual mention of creative bookkeeping that I pretended not to hear. The Thanksgiving when he'd laughed about claiming storm damage on 3 different properties from the same hurricane, damage that I'd helped clean up and knew was mostly cosmetic. The Christmas where he'd shown off his new truck, bought with disability payments for a back injury that didn't stop him from hauling lumber the next week. The family barbecue where he joked about his paper employees, people who existed on his payroll but never showed up to work. All those times, I'd felt sick to my stomach but kept my mouth shut. Because he was family. Because my mom always said we don't air our dirty laundry. Because I was still trying to be the good daughter who didn't cause trouble. Well, look how that worked out. I need to make some calls, I told Maya as we climbed the stairs to her apartment. And I need to use your computer. Mine's compromised. She didn't ask questions, just set me up at her kitchen table with her laptop and a cup of coffee that I wouldn't touch for the next 4 hours. The IRS tip line was surprisingly easy to find. So was the state insurance fraud hotline. And the Department of Labor's wage theft reporting system. Turns out the government really wants to hear about people cheating the system, they just make it quiet and bureaucratic so most people don't bother. But I wasn't most people anymore. I was someone who'd had their entire life upended by people who thought they were untouchable. I started with the insurance fraud. Uncle Rick's company, Mitchell & Sons Construction, the irony of that name wasn't lost on me, had filed 17 major claims in the past 5 years. I had photos from family gatherings showing the severely damaged warehouse that was actually just missing some roof shingles. I had text messages from my cousin bragging about the payout for equipment that was never actually stolen. The tax evasion was trickier, but I had memories going back years. Names of the fake employees, including my dead grandmother who'd apparently been drawing a steady paycheck for 3 years after her funeral. Conversations about cash jobs that never made it into the books. My aunt's slip about how they bought their house under a shell company name to avoid paying proper taxes. Maya found me there at midnight, surrounded by printed emails and handwritten timelines. Babe, she said softly, what are you doing? I looked up at her, my eyes probably wild from staring at the screen for so long. I'm burning it all down. She sat down across from me, taking in the scattered evidence. Are you sure about this? I mean, they're terrible people, but this looks serious. They tried to get me killed, I said flatly. Some stranger drove 4 hours to fix me because my uncle posted my address online. They cost me my semester, maybe my scholarship. They want me destroyed. Fine. But they started a war they can't win. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she squeezed my hand. What do you need me to do? The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from my mother. I stared at my phone screen, watching her name flash up again as another call came through. Maya stirred beside me, squinting at the noise. Let it go to voicemail, she mumbled, but I was already sitting up, fully awake. My family never called me. Not since the disowning. The timing couldn't be a coincidence. I played the voicemails on speaker, each one more frantic than the last. Sarah, honey, please call me back. There's been a misunderstanding. Sarah, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to call home right now. This is your mother, and I'm telling you to stop whatever game you're playing before someone gets hurt. By the final message, she wasn't trying to sound motherly anymore. You ungrateful little bitch, if you think you can threaten this family, you're dead wrong. We made you, and we can unmake you just as easy. Maya sat up, her eyes wide. Did she just threaten me? Yeah. I was already getting dressed, my mind racing. Which means someone talked. The agencies I contacted yesterday weren't supposed to reveal their sources, but my phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Jake. * Mom says you are trying to cause trouble. Dad knows people, Sarah. People who can make problems go away. Drop it. *. Then another from my uncle Rick himself. * Whatever lies you're spreading, you have 24 hours to fix it. Check your email. *. I grabbed Maya's laptop, my hands shaking as I logged into my email account. The message from my uncle was brief, but the attachment made my blood freeze. It was a photo of Maya's apartment building. Our apartment building, now. With an arrow pointing to our specific window. Oh fuck, Maya breathed, looking over my shoulder. How did they? They followed us yesterday. Or hired someone to. I was already pulling up the rest of the email. Look at this. The message continued. * Found your little hideout faster than you found those public records. Interesting how easy it is to track someone when you know what you're doing. 24 hours, Sarah. Make this go away, or we make you go away. And we'll start with that girlfriend of yours. *. Maya went pale. We need to call the police. With what? A vague threat and a photo of our building? I was already thinking 3 steps ahead. They're not stupid enough to put anything concrete in writing. Rick's been dodging consequences his whole life. He knows how to dance right up to the line without crossing it. But even as I said it, I realized they'd made a critical mistake. They were panicking, which meant my reports had already gained traction. Government agencies didn't work that fast unless they'd found something immediately actionable. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Don't answer it, Maya said, but I was already swiping to accept. Sarah Mitchell. The voice was professional, crisp. This is Agent Jennifer Santos with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. We received your report yesterday, and we need to discuss some details. Are you somewhere safe where we can talk? I caught Maya's eye, feeling a mixture of terror and vindication. Actually, Agent Santos, I'm not sure anywhere is safe right now. My family knows I contacted you, and they're escalating. Ma'am, if you're receiving threats related to your federal report, that's witness intimidation. That's a felony. Can you forward me any communications you've received in the last 24 hours? I almost laughed. Almost. Here I'd spent years protecting these people from their own crimes, and in less than 48 hours, they'd managed to commit 3 new felonies just trying to shut me up. Agent Santos, I said, I think I'm going to need protection. And I think you're going to need a lot more evidence than I originally sent. We're listening. Maya grabbed my hand as I started talking, and I squeezed back. There was no going back now. The FBI field office looked nothing like the movies. No dramatic glass walls or high-tech screens, just beige cubicles and fluorescent lighting that made everything feel sterile and surreal. Agent Santos was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes that somehow made the whole situation feel more real and more terrifying at the same time. Before we discuss your family's financial crimes, she said, setting a digital recorder on the table between us, I need to understand the scope of these threats. You mentioned they found your current address. I slid my phone across the table, showing her the photo of our building. That came this morning, along with threats against my girlfriend. They're not usually this sloppy, but I think they're scared. Agent Santos studied the image, then looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Sarah, I'm going to be direct with you. The documentation you provided yesterday? It's good. Really good. We've been looking at Mitchell and Sons for 2 years, but we never had someone on the inside willing to talk. My stomach dropped. 2 years. Insurance fraud investigations take time. We've suspected systematic fraud, but proving it requires either catching them in the act or having witness testimony from someone with intimate knowledge of their operations. She leaned forward slightly. You just gave us both. Maya, who'd been quietly sitting beside me, finally spoke up. What does that mean for Sarah's safety? It means she's now a federal witness in an active investigation. It also means that if your family is smart, they'll back off immediately. If they're not. Agent Santos pulled out a business card. This is the number for our witness protection coordinator. I'm not saying you'll need it, but I want you to have it. The words hit me like ice water. Witness protection. I'd gone from trying to salvage my college semester to potentially disappearing entirely. How long before you can arrest them? That depends on several factors. We need to coordinate with state agencies, review the evidence, possibly conduct surveillance. She paused. But based on what you've provided and their reaction to our initial inquiries, I'd estimate we're looking at coordinated arrests within the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks of looking over my shoulder, of Maya being in danger because of my choices, of not knowing if every car behind us was following or every knock at the door was trouble. My phone buzzed against the table. Text from my mom, * last chance. Family meeting tonight at the house. 8 p.m. Come alone and we can fix this quietly, *. Agent Santos read it over my shoulder. Are you considering going? No, I said immediately, but then doubt crept in. I mean, what if they're ready to actually talk? What if this could end without anyone else getting hurt? Sarah. Maya's voice was sharp. They literally threatened to make us disappear. That's not a family meeting, that's an ambush. Agent Santos nodded. Your girlfriend's right. This message shows clear intent to isolate you from support systems. Classic intimidation tactics. She was taking notes now. However, if you were willing to wear a wire. Absolutely not, Maya said before I could respond. You're not seriously suggesting she walk into a trap. I'm suggesting we turn their desperation into evidence. With proper backup and surveillance, a recorded conversation could provide everything we need for immediate arrests. Agent Santos looked directly at me. But it would be dangerous. And entirely your choice. I stared at my phone, at my mother's message, at the crossroads I never thought I'd face. My family had spent years teaching me that blood was everything, that loyalty to family trumped everything else. But they'd thrown me away the moment I became inconvenient. Now they wanted me back just long enough to clean up their mess. If I do this, I said slowly, and something goes wrong. Then your girlfriend becomes our priority witness, Agent Santos said grimly. Because she knows everything you know now. Maya went pale. We were both in this now, whether we wanted to be or not. The wire was smaller than I'd expected, just a thin device taped under my shirt, barely noticeable unless you knew what to look for. Agent Santos adjusted it one final time while Maya paced behind us like a caged animal. Testing, 1 2, I whispered, and Santos nodded at whatever she was hearing through her earpiece. Remember, she said, we need them to explicitly discuss the fraudulent claims, the falsified documents, or the threats against you. Don't push too hard, let them talk. Maya stopped pacing. This is insane. What if they search her? What if they get violent? We have 3 surveillance teams positioned around the property, Santos replied. If anything goes sideways, we'll be inside in under 30 seconds. That should have been reassuring, but 30 seconds felt like a lifetime when I imagined facing my entire family's rage alone. My phone rang. Mom again. You're late, she said without preamble. Rick's getting impatient. I'm 5 minutes out, I lied. We were still 15 minutes away, but I needed to buy time to get my nerves under control. Sarah. Mom's voice carried that warning tone I remembered from childhood. I hope you understand what you're throwing away here. Everything your father built, everything this family represents. You mean everything built on lies? The silence stretched long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then, your father never lied about who he was. Can you say the same? The barb hit exactly where she'd aimed it. Even now, even after everything, she knew exactly which buttons to push. I'm not the one committing fraud, Mom. No, you're just the one destroying innocent people's lives over paperwork. Her voice hardened. Hurry up. And Sarah? Rick brought some friends tonight. Friends who are very interested in meeting the person causing problems for our family. The line went dead. Did you catch that? I asked Santos, who was listening through her own earpiece. Got it. Rick brought friends, that sounds like additional intimidation tactics. She spoke into her radio. All units, be advised that additional unknown subjects may be present at the location. Maya grabbed my arm. That's it. This is over. We're not doing this. Maya. No. Your uncle is obviously bringing muscle. This isn't a family meeting anymore, it's... She struggled for words. It's whatever comes before someone disappears. Agent Santos was quiet for a moment, then, she's not wrong. The dynamic has changed. We can abort right now, focus on building the case through surveillance and documentation. I stared out the window at the familiar streets of my childhood neighborhood. Every corner held memories, learning to ride my bike, walking to school, Sunday dinners that lasted for hours. My family had given me roots in this place, an identity, a sense of belonging. Then they'd ripped it all away the moment I stopped being who they needed me to be. How long would that take? Building a case without this? Months, maybe longer. And that's assuming they don't destroy evidence or flee once they realize how serious this investigation is. Maya was shaking her head, but I was already deciding. If we don't do this tonight, they'll disappear the evidence. They'll probably disappear entirely. Rick has enough offshore accounts to disappear permanently. I looked at Maya, trying to memorize her face just in case. This is the only chance to end this. Sarah, please. I spent 6 years protecting them. 6 years keeping their secrets while they slowly poisoned everything I cared about. I touched the wire under my shirt. I'm done protecting people who never protected me. Agent Santos started the engine. All units, target is mobile. Operation is a go. As we drove toward my childhood home, I realized I was either about to save my future or destroy any chance of having one. The house looked exactly the same as it had 6 months ago when I'd left for the last time. Same beige siding, same overgrown hedge that Dad never quite got around to trimming, same crooked mailbox that Rick had backed into 3 Christmases ago. But now there were 4 cars in the driveway instead of the usual 2, and every window blazed with light like they were preparing for something big. Agent Santos parked 2 blocks away. Last chance to change your mind. I'm good, I lied, wiping sweaty palms on my jeans. My heart was hammering so hard I worried it might interfere with the wire's audio. Remember, if you say, I need some air, we move immediately. Don't try to be a hero. Maya leaned forward from the back seat. I love you. And if you don't come out of there safe, I'm going to kill you myself. Despite everything, I almost smiled. I love you too. The walk to the front door felt endless. Motion sensor lights flicked on as I approached, making me feel exposed and watched. I could see shadows moving behind the living room curtains, more people than just my immediate family. My Uncle Rick's friends were apparently already here. I knocked instead of using my key. That felt important somehow, acknowledging that this wasn't my home anymore. Mom opened the door, and for just a second, her face showed relief. Like maybe she'd been genuinely worried I wouldn't come. Then she saw my expression and her features hardened back into the mask I'd grown familiar with over the past year. You look thin, she said, stepping aside to let me in. College food, I replied automatically, then wondered why we were bothering with small talk when we both knew why I was here. The living room was crowded. Dad sat in his usual recliner, looking older than I remembered. Rick lounged on the couch with two men I didn't recognize, both in their 40s, both carrying themselves like they were used to making people nervous. Mom gestured for me to sit in the chair closest to the door. Coincidence, or were they making sure I couldn't bolt easily? Sarah, Dad said, and his voice was tired. This has gotten out of hand. Has it? I settled into the chair, hyper-aware of the wire against my ribs. Because from where I'm sitting, it got out of hand when you decided to destroy my life online. We didn't destroy anything, Rick interjected. We told the truth. You're the one who chose to become what you are. One of Rick's friends, a heavy-set man with graying temples, leaned forward. Let me ask you something, kid. Do you understand what you've set in motion here? I understand that my family committed crimes and now they're facing consequences. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. See, that's where you're wrong. Your family built something here. Provided jobs, supported the community. And you're going to tear that down over some paperwork discrepancies. Paperwork discrepancies. I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice. You mean systematic insurance fraud spanning decades? Dad winced. Mom shot him a sharp look. Careful how you throw around accusations, the second stranger said. His voice was quieter but somehow more menacing. Especially when you don't have proof. Don't I? I met his stare. Because the FBI seemed pretty interested in the documentation I provided. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Rick's face went white. What documentation? Mom asked slowly. Everything. The client files with falsified damage reports, the fabricated receipts, the shell companies, the offshore accounts. I was pushing harder than Agent Santos had advised, but their reactions were giving me exactly what we needed. Did you really think I lived in this house for 18 years without noticing what you were doing? Rick stood up abruptly. You little. Rick. Dad's voice cut through the tension. Sit down. But Rick was past listening. Do you have any idea what you've done? What this means for all of us? It means you're finally going to face consequences for your actions. The heavy-set man was studying me with new interest. Smart kid. But smart kids sometimes make stupid mistakes. Something in his tone made my skin crawl. This was escalating beyond family drama into something much darker. What kind of mistakes? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. The man exchanged a look with his partner. The kind where young people get in over their heads and need guidance finding their way back to solid ground. That sounds like a threat. Does it? He shrugged. I was thinking it sounded like friendly advice. Agent Santos's voice crackled in my earpiece, so quietly I almost missed it. We're picking up multiple cell phones going active in there. Someone's making calls. My stomach dropped. Were they calling in more people? Or trying to tip off other parts of their operation? Mom must have noticed my expression change. Sarah, honey, you look pale. Are you feeling all right? The concern in her voice sounded genuine, which somehow made everything worse. How could she sit there acting like a caring mother while these men made veiled threats? I'm fine. I tried to refocus on getting them to admit specifics about the fraud. I just want to understand something, Dad. When you were teaching me about the business, showing me how to process claims, were you training me to be part of this? Dad's hands clenched on the arms of his recliner. Sarah, everything I did was to build something for this family. For your future. By defrauding insurance companies. By being smart about the system, Rick interrupted. By not letting corporate bureaucrats decide what people's losses are worth. So you decided instead. You fabricated damage assessments, inflated repair costs. We provided fair compensation, Mom said firmly. When Hurricane Sandra hit the Hendersons, their insurance wanted to pay $30,000 for damage that clearly cost $60,000 to fix properly. We helped them get what they deserved. By falsifying the reports. By documenting the real costs. Dad leaned forward. Sarah, you grew up in this community. You know these people. The Hendersons, the Kowalskis, Mrs. Chen from the corner store. When disaster hits, the insurance companies try to lowball them into poverty. We leveled the playing field. For a moment, I almost understood their logic. Almost. Then I remembered the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the systematic nature of what they'd been doing. What about the money you skimmed? Was that leveling the playing field too? The quiet man's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression shifted. We need to move this along. Move what along? I asked, but he was already standing. Rick's phone rang. He answered without moving away from us. Yeah. When? Are you sure? His face went ashen. Shit. Okay. Okay, I understand. He hung up and looked directly at me. The FBI just raided the office. My heart hammered against my ribs. That wasn't supposed to happen yet. Santos had said they were waiting for evidence from tonight before moving on any locations. What office? I tried to sound confused rather than terrified. Drop the act, Sarah. Mom's voice was ice. How long have you been working with them? The heavy-set man was suddenly much closer to my chair. More importantly, are you working with them right now? Agent Santos's voice in my earpiece. Sarah, we're seeing people moving around the exterior of the house. Say the phrase if you need immediate extraction. But if I called for help now, would it blow the investigation? We still hadn't gotten clear admissions about the scope of the fraud, the other people involved, or where the money was hidden. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, hoping my voice sounded steadier than I felt. Rick was pacing now. They hit the office and the warehouse simultaneously. This wasn't random, Dad. Someone gave them specific locations. The quiet man crouched down beside my chair. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Empty your pockets. Now. My hands trembled as I reached into my jacket pockets, pulling out my phone, wallet, and keys. The man examined each item carefully while his partner watched the room. My chest felt tight, not from fear, but from trying to breathe normally with the wire pressed against my ribs. "Stand up," he said quietly. "Leave her alone," Dad said, but there was no real authority in his voice anymore. "Your daughter just cost us millions of dollars, Frank. I'm not leaving anything to chance." The man gestured for me to raise my arms. "This is just precautionary." Agent Santos's voice crackled in my earpiece. "Sarah, multiple vehicles approaching the property. Unknown if friendly or hostile. Be ready." I lifted my arms, trying to appear compliant while calculating how to protect the wire. If they found it, this would go from bad to catastrophic very quickly. The man's hands moved professionally, checking my jacket pockets more thoroughly. He paused at my shoulders, then moved down my arms. My heart hammered as his search approached my torso. Car doors slammed outside. Multiple vehicles, from the sound of it. Rick peered through the curtains. "Shit. 3 black SUVs just pulled up. FBI?" Mom asked. "Can't tell. Windows are tinted." The heavy-set man's search had reached my waist. Any second now, he'd find the wire. I had to do something. "You want to know what I told them?" I said loudly, hoping to distract him. "I told them about the Cayman Islands account. The one with $12 million that you thought I didn't know about." Everyone in the room went dead silent. The man's hands stopped moving. "There is no Cayman Islands account," Rick said, but his voice cracked. "Account number 847-392-156. Opened in 2018 under the name Coastal Holdings LLC. I was making up the specifics, but their faces told me I was close enough. I also told them about the Bitcoin wallet." Dad stood up so abruptly his recliner snapped forward. "How could you possibly?" "Frank." Mom's voice was sharp. "Don't." But Dad was past caring about operational security. "We never told you about any of that. You were 18 when you left, you couldn't have." "I was 18 and desperate for your approval," I said, surprised by the raw honesty in my voice. "I used to sneak into the office after school, trying to learn the business so you'd be proud of me. I saw everything." The quiet man finally spoke up. "If she knows about the offshore accounts, she knows about the other families involved. The network isn't just local." "What other families?" I asked, though I was starting to piece it together. Heavy footsteps on the front porch interrupted us. A sharp knock echoed through the house. "FBI. Open up." The heavy-set man grabbed my arm. "Back door. Now." "Let go of her," Dad said, standing up. "Your daughter just destroyed a 20-year operation, Frank. She's coming with us until we figure out how much damage control we need to do." Agent Santos's voice in my earpiece was urgent. "Sarah, that's not our team at the front door. We're still 2 minutes out. Those are not federal agents." My blood went cold. If the people at the front door weren't FBI, and Santos's team wasn't here yet, then who was outside? And why were they claiming to be federal agents? The heavy-set man was pulling me toward the kitchen, toward the back exit. Rick was already moving that direction, stuffing papers from a desk drawer into a bag. "Mom," I called out, genuine fear in my voice now. "Who are those people?" She looked confused and scared. "I thought they were with you." The front door exploded inward. 3 men in tactical gear burst through the splintered front door, but something was wrong with their equipment. Their vests said FBI in yellow letters that looked like they'd been printed at a copy shop, and their weapons weren't standard federal issue. "Nobody move," the lead man shouted, sweeping his rifle across the room. Agent Santos's voice crackled urgently in my earpiece. "Sarah, those are not federal agents. Real FBI is still 90 seconds out. Get down and stay down." The heavy-set man still had my arm in a grip that was cutting off circulation. "These aren't feds," he hissed to Rick. "Look at their gear." Rick's face went white. "Kozlov?" The name hit the room like a physical force. Mom actually whimpered. Dad sank back into his recliner, suddenly looking every one of his 63 years. "Who's Kozlov?" I whispered. "Shut up," the fake FBI leader barked, turning his weapon toward us. "Where's the money?" "What money?" Rick tried to sound confused, but his voice shook. "Don't play stupid. 12 hours ago, someone started moving funds out of accounts in the Caymans, Switzerland, and Panama. Money that belongs to our organization." My stomach dropped. I'd made up the Cayman Islands account number, but apparently I'd stumbled onto something real. These people weren't just insurance fraudsters, they were involved with actual criminals. The quiet man released my arm and stepped forward, hands raised. "There's been a misunderstanding. We haven't moved any money." Then explain why $4 million transferred out of the Geneva account this morning, right after the FBI raid started. Dad's face was gray. "Someone else has access to those accounts." "Who?" "We don't know. The whole network is compromised. Law enforcement is hitting operations in 3 states. One of the fake agents moved to the window and peered out. Boss, multiple vehicles approaching from the south. Moving fast." The leader's radio crackled. "Kozlov to Alpha Team. Status? House secured, but we've got complications. Local and federal law enforcement en route. Maybe 2 minutes." Agent Santos's voice in my earpiece. "Sarah, we have visual on the house. 3 hostile vehicles, unknown number of suspects inside. When we move, get as low as possible and don't move until you hear all clear." "We need to go," Rick said urgently. "Take whatever you can carry in." "Nobody's going anywhere until we get answers," the leader said. He pointed his rifle at Mom. "You. Old woman. Where are the account passwords?" "I don't have them," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Frank handles the financial side." "Frank?" The rifle swung toward my father. "The passwords change automatically every 72 hours. They're generated by software." "What software? Where?" Dad's hands trembled as he pointed toward his computer in the corner. It's all there, but you need biometric verification. Fingerprint and retinal scan. The quiet man was edging toward the back door again, and I realized he was planning to use me as a shield if things went bad. I had to create some kind of distraction before Santos's team arrived, and this turned into a firefight with me in the middle. The FBI already has copies of everything, I said loudly. Every head in the room turned toward me. The software, the passwords, the account information, I gave them access to Dad's computer 3 days ago. They've been monitoring the transfers in real time. It was a complete lie, but the panic in the room told me it was believable. You stupid girl, Rick snarled. Do you have any idea what you've done? She's destroyed us all, the leader said grimly. His radio crackled again. Boss, federal vehicles are 30 seconds out. We need to move now. That's when the shooting started. The first gunshot came from outside, a sharp crack that made everyone in the room freeze. Then came the distinctive pop-pop-pop of automatic weapons fire, and I realized Santos's team had engaged the fake FBI's backup outside. Get down, the leader of the fake agents screamed, but he was shouting at his own men, not us. The tactical situation had just flipped completely. The quiet man grabbed me around the waist and hauled me toward the kitchen. Insurance policy, he muttered, dragging me as Mom screamed my name. His grip was like iron, and the wire pressed painfully against my ribs as he manhandled me toward the back door. Sarah. Dad lurched up from his chair, but Rick shoved him back down. Stay put, Frank, or she gets hurt worse than necessary. Agent Santos's voice crackled in my earpiece, barely audible over the chaos, multiple suspects moving toward the rear of the house. Team 2, intercept at the back exit. The fake FBI leader was barking orders into his radio while keeping his weapon trained on my parents. Alpha Team, we need extraction now. Federal agents on scene. Glass shattered somewhere in the front of the house, either from gunfire or Santos's team making entry. The sound of boots on hardwood floors thundered through the walls. The man dragging me had almost reached the kitchen when the back door exploded inward. 2 actual FBI agents in proper tactical gear came through fast and low, their weapons professionally trained. Federal agents. Release the hostage. My captor spun me around to use as a human shield, his arm across my throat cutting off my air. Stay back or she dies. Sarah Chen, one of the agents called out. Are you injured? I tried to respond but could barely breathe with the pressure on my windpipe. The wire felt like it was cutting into my skin. That's when Rick made his move. Instead of helping the hostage situation, he bolted for the basement stairs, clutching that bag of papers. The movement drew everyone's attention for a split second, long enough for the fake FBI leader in the living room to start shooting. The sound was deafening. Mom screamed. Dad dove behind his recliner. The real FBI agents took cover behind the kitchen island, returning fire toward the living room. My captor was trying to back us toward a side door I hadn't noticed before, probably leading to a garage or utility room. His grip loosened slightly as he fumbled for the door handle, and I managed to gasp out, "Wire, I'm wearing a wire." I wasn't sure if the FBI agents heard me over the gunfire, but one of them spoke rapidly into his radio, "Hostage is broadcasting. All units, monitor frequency 7. The door behind us opened, and I caught a glimpse of a dark garage with another black SUV parked inside, their planned escape route. But as my captor tried to drag me through the doorway, he jerked suddenly and his grip went slack. Agent Santos appeared behind him like a ghost, having somehow gotten into the garage from outside. The quiet man crumpled, and Santos caught me as I stumbled forward. Are you hurt? She asked urgently, pulling me behind the SUV for cover. The wire, did it record everything? Every word. She spoke into her radio, package secured. Suspect down but breathing. The shooting in the house had stopped, replaced by shouting voices and the sound of people being arrested. But then Santos's expression changed as she listened to her earpiece. What is it? I asked. Rick Chen just triggered some kind of dead man switch in the basement. He's claiming he's got explosives wired to the house's gas line. My heart stopped. He's bluffing. Rick's not that kind of criminal, he's a white-collar guy. Maybe. But thermal imaging shows he's near what looks like the main gas shutoff, and he's got something in his hands that's giving off an electronic signature. From inside the house, I could hear Rick's voice echoing up from the basement, everyone out. I want safe passage or this whole neighborhood goes up. Agent Santos was already pulling me toward the garage door. We need to evacuate the area until the bomb squad can assess the threat. But as we moved, I heard something that made my blood freeze, the distinctive hiss of gas under pressure. Rick wasn't bluffing. The hiss of escaping gas grew louder, and I could smell it even from the garage. Santos was speaking rapidly into her radio while pulling me toward the street. All units, full evacuation. Potential explosive device connected to residential gas line. Bomb squad ETA 8 minutes. 8 minutes felt like a lifetime when my parents were still inside. We have to get Mom and Dad out, I said, pulling against Santos's grip. The tactical team is handling evacuation. Your job is to stay safe and keep that wire recording. But even as she said it, I could see the worry in her eyes. Rick Chen isn't responding to negotiation attempts. Through the chaos, I heard Rick's voice echoing from somewhere deep in the house. I want federal guarantees of immunity and transport to a non-extradition country. You have 5 minutes to clear the area. He's panicking, I told Santos. Rick always falls apart under pressure. In high school, he used to have anxiety attacks before tests. Panicked people with explosives are the most dangerous kind. Santos guided me behind an FBI vehicle parked across the street. What else can you tell me about the basement layout? I closed my eyes, trying to remember. There's a workshop area where Dad keeps tools, and the main utility room with the water heater and electrical panel. The gas meter is on the outside wall, but the main shutoff valve is definitely down there. Santos relayed this information while I watched more FBI agents pour out of the house, escorting my parents to safety. Mom was crying hysterically, and Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. The fake FBI agents were being loaded into different vehicles in handcuffs. But then I noticed something wrong. Where's the quiet guy? The one who grabbed me. Santos spun around, scanning the area. Agent Martinez had him secured behind the house. She spoke into her radio, status on Suspect 3. The response made her face go pale, Suspect 3 is gone. Martinez is unconscious but breathing. Appears to have been tasered. This was getting worse by the minute. Now we had Rick threatening to blow up the house, and a potentially dangerous criminal loose in the neighborhood. The smell of gas was getting stronger, and I could see neighbors being evacuated from houses up and down the street. Fire trucks were arriving, along with more police cars and what looked like a bomb disposal unit. Sarah. Mom broke away from the agent escorting her and ran toward me. Thank God you're safe. I hugged her, feeling the weird mix of relief and anger that had been building for months. Are you hurt? No, but your father, he's having chest pains. They're getting a paramedic. Dad was sitting in the back of an ambulance, an oxygen mask over his face. When he saw me, he pulled it aside. Sarah, I'm sorry. For all of it. The disowning, the doxing, none of this should have happened. We'll talk later, Dad. Right now, just focus on breathing. Agent Santos approached us with a grim expression. The bomb squad confirms there's definitely a device down there, and gas is actively leaking. Rick Chen has rigged something to the main valve that they can't disarm remotely. Can't they just shut off gas to the whole neighborhood? I asked. They're working on it, but these old systems don't shut off instantly. There's already enough gas accumulated in that basement to level the house and damage surrounding properties. A new voice crackled over Santos's radio, Suspect 3 spotted 2 blocks north, moving toward the elementary school. My heart sank. The quiet man was heading toward Wilson Elementary, the same school I'd attended as a kid. It was after hours, but they often had evening activities and sports practices. He's looking for more hostages, Santos said grimly. This just became a multi-scene incident. The hissing from the house was getting louder, and Rick's voice had taken on a hysterical edge. 3 minutes. I want those guarantees now, or I'm done negotiating. Santos looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Sarah, is there any way you could talk to Rick? Family connection might be our only chance. You want me to go back toward the house with a gas leak and talk Rick down from whatever breakdown he's having? I stared at Santos like she'd lost her mind. He just threatened to blow up the neighborhood. Not face to face, Santos clarified quickly. We can patch you through the tactical team's communication system. Sometimes family voices can break through panic better than trained negotiators. Before I could respond, another complication hit us. Santos's radio crackled with urgent chatter. Suspect 3 has entered the elementary school. Repeat, armed suspect has breached Wilson Elementary. We have confirmation of at least 12 people inside, coaching staff and kids from after-school programs. The situation was spiraling completely out of control. My family's crimes had somehow led to this nightmare where innocent kids were in danger and my childhood home was about to become a crater. I'll try talking to Rick, I said quickly. But first, what about the school? Different team is handling that. Right now, you might be our best shot at preventing a gas explosion that could injure dozens of first responders and neighbors. Santos handed me a headset. Keep it calm and personal. Don't mention the other situation at the school, we don't want him more agitated. I put on the headset with shaking hands. Rick? It's Sarah. There was a long pause, then Rick's voice came through, sounding younger and more frightened than I'd heard since we were kids. Sarah? You're supposed to be gone. Safe. I'm safe. I'm across the street with the FBI agents. Rick, whatever you're doing down there, it's not going to fix anything. They're going to put me in federal prison for decades. The insurance fraud, the fake identities we sold, the money laundering, I kept records of everything, and they have it all now. My stomach dropped. The insurance fraud was just the beginning. What fake identities? The whole business, Sarah. We weren't just fudging insurance claims. We were selling complete identity packages to people who needed to disappear. New social security numbers, credit histories, the works. That explained the fake FBI agents. They weren't just random criminals, they were probably clients or associates who needed to recover something that could expose them too. Rick, none of that matters if you're dead. Or if you hurt innocent people. I can't go to prison, Sarah. You don't understand what they do to people like me in there. Santos was listening to multiple radio channels through her earpiece, and her expression kept getting grimmer. She scribbled a note and showed it to me, school situation escalating. Need this resolved now. I tried to keep my voice steady. Remember when we were kids, and you used to have those panic attacks? You taught me that breathing exercise. Are you breathing, Rick? The gas. I can smell it everywhere down here. I think I damaged something when I was trying to rig the timer. My blood went cold. Timer? Rick, what timer? I set it up so I could get out safely, but something broke when the FBI started shooting. Now I can't. Sarah, I don't think I can stop it. Santos was already speaking rapidly into her radio. All units, prepare for immediate full evacuation. Subject may have lost control of the device. The smell of gas was definitely stronger now, and I could see bomb squad members moving equipment frantically. Rick, where exactly are you in the basement? Utility room. There's water everywhere from a broken pipe, and sparks from the electrical panel. Sarah, I think I made a really bad mistake. Water, gas, and electrical sparks. The timer device might be irrelevant now, the whole basement had become a potential bomb waiting for the right trigger. Santos grabbed my arm. We need to move everyone back. Now. But before we could retreat further, a new voice came over the radio. Suspect 3 at the school is demanding to speak to Sarah Chen. He says he'll release the hostages if she comes to the school alone. The world seemed to tilt sideways. I was being demanded in 2 places at once. Rick needed me to talk him through his panic attack before the basement exploded, and now the quiet man at the elementary school was using innocent kids as leverage to get to me. Absolutely not, Santos said firmly into her radio. The civilian is not going anywhere near that school. Rick, stay with me, I said into the headset, trying to compartmentalize the chaos around me. Tell me exactly what you see down there. There's so much water, Sarah. I think when I tried to attach the device to the gas line, I hit a water pipe. The whole floor is flooded, and the electrical panel is sparking every few seconds. Santos was gesturing frantically to other agents while listening to multiple radio feeds. The bomb squad was shouting something about evacuation zones, and I could see neighbors being moved even further back from their original positions. Rick, you need to get out of there right now. Forget the device, forget everything, just get upstairs. I can't. The water level is rising and there's electrical current running through it. I'm trapped on top of Dad's workbench, and every time I try to move toward the stairs, I get shocked. This was turning into a horror movie. My cousin was trapped in an electrified, gas-filled basement while a dangerous criminal was holding kids hostage specifically to get to me. Santos covered her radio mic and spoke quickly to me. The school situation is deteriorating. Suspect 3 claims he has information about a larger network, says the identity fraud operation involves people in law enforcement and government positions. He'll only talk to you because you're not compromised. What does that even mean? Could mean he thinks everyone else is either involved or can't be trusted. Sarah, I hate to say this, but you might genuinely be the key to resolving both situations. A new voice crackled over the radio, someone from the school team. Suspect 3 is getting agitated. He's shown us a list of names he claims are dirty cops and federal agents involved in the identity operation. Says if Sarah doesn't show up in 10 minutes, he starts proving his point by eliminating compromised law enforcement. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the headset. He's threatening to kill police officers. That's the implication. Rick's voice came through my headset, weaker now, Sarah. The sparking is getting worse. And I'm starting to feel dizzy from the gas fumes. I looked around at the chaos, bomb squad members running equipment back to safer distances, paramedics treating Dad for what looked like a heart attack, Mom crying hysterically behind an FBI vehicle, and now Santos receiving what appeared to be very bad news through her earpiece. What now? I asked Santos. The gas company says they can't shut off service to this area remotely. The main valve for this section is apparently inside your parents' basement, exactly where Rick is trapped. So even if we could get Rick out safely, we'd still have a basement full of gas and a timing device that might or might not be functional. And meanwhile, innocent kids were being held hostage by someone who specifically wanted me. There's something else, Santos said grimly. We found Rick's records in the house. The identity fraud operation is massive, dozens of clients over several years. Some of them are apparently very dangerous people who are now exposed. You think the quiet man is one of their clients? Or someone sent to clean up loose ends? Either way, he seems to believe you have information or access that could protect him. Rick's voice was getting weaker, Sarah. I don't think I can hold on much longer. The fumes are, everything's getting blurry. I had to make an impossible choice, try to save Rick before he passed out and potentially triggered an explosion, or somehow help resolve the hostage situation at the school. And I was starting to suspect that both situations were connected in ways we didn't fully understand yet. Santos, what if they're connected? I said suddenly, a horrible realization forming. What if the quiet man isn't just a client? What if he's here to clean up everyone who knows about the operation? Santos paused mid-conversation with her radio team. What do you mean? Rick just told us the identity fraud was massive, right? Dangerous clients, government connections. What if someone higher up decided to eliminate all the witnesses? My family, and now me because I reported them. Before Santos could respond, her earpiece crackled with urgent chatter. Her face went pale. The school team found explosives in Suspect 3's vehicle. This isn't just a hostage situation, he's planning to destroy evidence, and anyone connected to it. The pieces were falling into place in the worst possible way. He's not trying to protect himself from exposure. He's been sent to make sure there is no exposure. Rick's voice came through my headset, barely a whisper, Sarah. I think someone's upstairs. I heard footsteps. My blood froze. What kind of footsteps? Heavy. Moving through the house. That's not FBI, is it? They would have announced themselves. Santos was already barking orders into her radio, all units, possible additional suspects at the primary location. House may be compromised. But the response that came back made everything worse, negative. All FBI personnel accounted for and in position outside. No one entered the house. Someone else was in there. Someone who wasn't law enforcement, moving through my parents' house while Rick was trapped in an electrified, gas-filled basement below. Rick, stay absolutely quiet, I whispered into the headset. Don't make any sound. Through the headset, I could hear Rick's breathing become shallower, more controlled. Then footsteps creaked overhead, definitely inside the house now. Santos was coordinating frantically. I need eyes on all entry points. How did someone get inside our perimeter? The answer came from an agent monitoring surveillance footage. Suspect approached from the storm drain system. Came up through a basement access we didn't know existed. Of course. My parents' house was old, built when this neighborhood had a completely different drainage system. There were access tunnels that connected to several properties. Rick and I used to explore them as kids before our parents forbade it. Santos, I said urgently, if someone's coming through the basement tunnels, they're going to emerge right where Rick is. In the flooded utility room with the gas leak. With electrical current running through the water, Santos finished grimly. Anyone who enters that space. A new voice suddenly came over Rick's headset, not Rick's voice. Male, calm, professional, Rick Hoffman, my name is Marcus. I'm here to help you, but I need you to do exactly what I say. Santos and I exchanged looks of horror. Someone was now in the basement with Rick, in the middle of a death trap. Rick's voice, terrified, how did you get down here? The water. Special equipment. Rick, I know you've been talking to your cousin Sarah. I need you to give me that headset. Sarah. Rick's voice was panicked. Sarah, this man has a gun. Santos was already mobilizing teams, all units, armed suspect now inside the primary location with our trapped subject. Gas levels critical. But before anyone could respond, Marcus's voice came clearly through my headset, hello, Sarah. I believe we have mutual friends at an elementary school across town. Here's what's going to happen. My worst fear was confirmed, the situations were connected, and now Rick was face to face with someone who was clearly part of the cleanup operation. You're going to come inside this house, alone, and we're going to have a conversation about what you know and who you've told. If you refuse, Rick dies. If you bring anyone with you, the children at the school die. You have 5 minutes to decide. The line went dead. I stood frozen for maybe 3 seconds before Santos grabbed my arm. Sarah, you are not going in there alone. We'll find another way. There is no other way, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. But I have an idea. I turned to the bomb squad leader who was monitoring the gas readings. You said the main shutoff valve is in the basement, right? Where exactly? He checked his building schematics. Northwest corner, near the water heater. That's not where Rick is trapped. He's in the southeast utility room. I closed my eyes, remembering the basement layout from childhood. There's a crawl space that connects them, too small for an adult, but I used to hide there when I was little. Santos was already shaking her head. Absolutely not. The gas levels. We'll kill everyone if we don't shut them off, I interrupted. And that man Marcus doesn't know about the crawl space. He'll be focused on the main basement area. I was already putting on the breathing equipment the bomb squad offered me. Here's what we do. I go in through the front door like he wants, but I head straight for the basement. While I'm crawling to the shutoff valve, your sharpshooter's position at the basement windows. The basement windows are too high and too small, Santos started. For a clear shot, yes. But not for flashbang grenades. I looked at her steadily. The moment I shut off that gas valve, you flood that basement with every non-lethal weapon you have. Without the gas, there's no explosion risk. Santos was quiet for a moment, then spoke rapidly into her radio. How long to get teams in position at basement level? 2 minutes, came the response. And the school situation? Holding steady. Suspect 3 seems to be waiting for something, probably word from Marcus. I checked the small radio Santos had given me. Rick, if you can hear me, in exactly 3 minutes, cover your ears and close your eyes. Things are going to get very loud and very bright. No response, but I hoped he could still hear me. Santos accompanied me to the front door. Sarah, if this goes wrong. It won't, I said, and realized I actually believed it. I'm done being afraid of these people. I walked through the front door of my childhood home, calling out, Marcus. I'm here. I'm alone. His voice echoed from the basement, down here, Sarah. Slowly. Instead, I moved quickly to the basement door and dropped to my hands and knees the moment I was out of his line of sight. The crawl space was exactly where I remembered it, behind the old furnace. Smaller than I remembered, but I squeezed through, breathing apparatus scraping against the low ceiling. I could hear Marcus talking to Rick, she should be down here by now. Sarah. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The gas smell was overwhelming even with the breathing equipment, but I kept crawling. Finally, I reached the shutoff valve, an old, stubborn will that took all my strength to turn. The moment I heard the gas flow stop, I pressed the radio button. Now. The basement exploded with light and sound, flashbangs going off in sequence, followed by shouting voices and heavy footsteps. I stayed in the crawlspace until Santos's voice came over the radio, all clear. Suspects in custody. When I finally emerged, Rick was sitting outside in an ambulance, shaken but unharmed. Marcus was in handcuffs, looking far less intimidating than his voice had suggested. Santos found me as paramedics were checking me over. School secure too. When Marcus went silent, suspect 3 surrendered. Turns out they were both just hired cleanup crew, not the masterminds we thought. I looked back at the house where I'd grown up, now surrounded by evidence tape and federal agents. Is it really over? The criminal part is. The healing part. Santos smiled. That's up to you. For the first time in months, I felt like I could actually breathe.